What is up, guys? So Swartz back in with another video, and in today's video I just wanted to discuss the Detroit Pistons and, well, the question mark that surrounds their team this upcoming season, whether they're going to look to rebuild or whether they're going to, go out and make moves to go ahead and contend. Now, looking at the rebuilding side, not even just that, just looking at their team is pretty mediocre. I mean, outside of Andre Drummond and Blake Griffin, they don't have much going for them. Their third place player is Reggie Jackson, and Reggie Jackson, though, had a good, numbers season, I guess you could say, in the points department. He doesn't do much else, and he's more of a negative than a positive in my eyes. I mean, besides scoring, can't really facilitate as well as you'd hope he could for the contract that he has. Isn't a good defender, cannot shoot the ball well. And, you have all these guys, besides Reggie Jackson, you have Tony Snell and Langston Galloway on these contracts that they sort of don't deserve, and it's just, what do you do next? You can't really sign anybody because you're capped out, and you don't have as much young guys as a team that's rebuilding. So how do you go from here? What do you go from here? And I just have three players that I believe they should trade for to help them contend or further their chances of contending or making a deeper playoff push. But to get into that, the Pistons have two options going into the next offseason. You can rebuild, of course, or you could go out and, try to compete. Of course, I just talked about the competing. Now I'm talking about the rebuilding side. Andre Drummond, Reggie Jackson, Langston Galloway, Tony Snell, all their contracts are coming up at the end of this season, and then you can save that cap up, have Sekou Doumbouya and Luke Kennard and that cap, and then use Blake Griffin as another trade piece that you can ship to a team, sort of like maybe the Blazers, and get a good return, a guy such as Nas Little and, some cap fillers to, have a big three of those three guys, something around that, something around the realm of that. But, for the sake of this video, I just want to discuss three players who I believe they should trade for, and yeah, let's get into it. So, thinking of the players that I wanted them to trade for, I thought of players that would help them in these three areas that I believe they're lacking in, and that's perimeter defense, three-point shooting, and playmaking. And with that being said, let's get into it. So, the first player I want to discuss is Jrue Holiday. Jrue Holiday is a guard, 29 years old, who last season had a great year, put up 21 points, 5 rebounds, and just under 8 assists. Talking about, played 65 games, shot 47% from the field, and 33% from three. Now, obviously, 33% isn't a good percentage, but Jrue Holiday is a guy who can definitely knock down a three and help you there, but his game goes past that. Just look at his defensive stats. He's an all-defensive guy. Plays amazing defense. He's a bit on the underrated side. A player that is not talked about much when you're talking about the top guards. A person who I believe should have been an all-star, but yeah, it's definitely a player that I would look to trade if I was the Detroit Pistons. Looking at the team and, whether or not the Pelicans would trade him. In my honest opinion, I doubt it. Looking at the Pistons, they have a lot of young guys. They want a veteran in that locker room to navigate those young guys in the right direction. But yeah, speaking of a potential trade that I'd see, it'll probably be Jrue Holiday, Reggie Jackson, Langston Galloway, and either Luke Kennard or Sekou Doumbouya. Whichever one you want to pick. Now, if I'm the Pistons, I'm looking at it like this. Do I want to give up Luke Kennard, who's a 40% three-point shooter, who's probably the best shooter right now on this team, or do I want to give away Sekou Doumbouya, a guy who used a top 15 pick on, who's extremely raw, who can turn into this potential star, or who could potentially bust out? I don't know. Looking at it now, I'd probably choose Sekou over Luke Kennard if I was the Detroit Pistons, and if I was the Pelicans too. If I'm the Pelicans, I'm saying I want Sekou if you want Jrue Holiday. And yeah, but just looking at this trade from both sides, obviously we talked about Jrue Holiday staying, being that veteran presence, but I don't know, this team has a pair of veterans on that team in JJ Redick and Derek Favors who can help out this team. But I mean, this is a move to clear cap. Obviously, Jrue Holiday's contract is up in 3 years. Well, it's a 3-year contract worth $26 million per year. So in about 2022, that's when you can see his contract coming up, and then he's gonna be 32 by that time. This just helps you get rid of the contract now. I mean, Luke Kennard, he has 2 years left, and Sekou Doumbouya was just drafted, so I believe he has a 4-year deal. But Langston Galloway and Reggie Jackson are contracts that I said earlier are done or are up at the end of the season. So obviously, you're looking at going into the 2020 offseason with maybe not max money, but with a good amount of cap now that you have Jrue Holiday's contract off. And yeah, overall, I don't know if it's a win-win, but it's a trade that should probably be looked at, and a trade that'll probably benefit both sides. So yeah, that's the first one I want to discuss is Jrue Holiday. Next player I want to discuss is Bradley Beal. Now this one is, the cream of the crop. This is the biggest trade that I want to discuss because Bradley Beal isn't a slouch. Of course, this guy is an all-star back-to-back years. Should have probably been an all-NBA player in my eyes, Talking about what he did last year, put up 26, just under 26, 5 and 5 on 48% shooting from the field, and 35% shooting from three is low for him, but we know what Bradley Beal can do. We know he can shoot 40%, which he's done 4 times in his career, and then the 2 other times in 15-16 and 12-13 he shot 39%. So we know he can knock the ball down. Shot 81% from the free throw line, and a guy who's played in 82 games the past 2 seasons and has also played a lot of minutes. So all in all, if I'm the Detroit Pistons, this is the guy that I'm going after 100%. Talking about a guy who's also 26, who's just entering his prime, and you still have Andre Drummond, who's 25. So even if it doesn't work out with Blake Griffin, you could then, potentially trade Blake Griffin to a team, get a little bit younger, and then still have Bradley Beal and Andre Drummond in their primes, to add to them too and build up while the East and compete with the top guys in the East, such as the Sixers and the Bucks, and even possibly the Celtics. But yeah, looking at what a potential trade would be for Bradley Beal, I have here, I said Bradley Beal to the Detroit Pistons for Reggie Jackson to fill cap, Luke Kennard, Sekou Doumbouya, and you'll probably have to add a protected pick or maybe even 2 protected picks. In my eyes, that's definitely what it's going to cost for Bradley Beal. I mean, a player of his caliber, a guy who can score as efficiently as he can, a guy who can facilitate and rebound well too, a guy who's healthy, not a guy who has a lot of injury history, and a guy who's also young. He's not 29 like Jrue Holiday, he's 26. So he's just entering his prime. He can have a lot of great years left. Looking at this trade for both teams, of course, for the Pistons, we already stated you deem Bradley Beal an all-star. Just talking about how far it could potentially jump you up in the standings, I could potentially see them being a top 4 team. I mean, having a big 3 of top 4 team at least next year, because having a big 3 of Bradley Beal, Andre Drummond, and Blake Griffin, that's in contention for one of the best big 3s. I guess you could say in the East, probably. I don't want to say the second best because, you could say the second best big 3 at least at that, because for the Bucks big 3, Giannis, Chris Middleton, and then who would the third player be? Eric Bledsoe potentially. You have maybe Brook Lopez. I don't know. And then the Sixers big 3 is probably Tobias Harris, Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid. That's probably, I would definitely say a top 3 big 3 in the East. Bradley Beal, I don't know, whatever, and it's the East. Anything can happen. The East is wide open. You have the top teams in the Celtics, Sixers, and the Bucks. I think this Detroit team with Bradley Beal can definitely compete, and can probably beat the Celtics. For the Sixers and the Bucks, if things go your way in that series potentially, you're looking great. But looking at this from the Wizards side, it's obvious you're clearing cap. You're getting rid of Bradley. Well, you're not getting rid of Bradley Beal's contract, but you're getting Bradley Beal's contract off the books. You have Reggie Jackson, whose contract again is going to be up at the end of the next season, and you have Luke Kennard and Sekou Doumbouya, 2 young pieces to add to your young core that you already have of Rui Hachimura and possibly Thomas Bryant if he can continue playing the way he's playing. Sekou is a guy who I thought they would have drafted with their, I believe it was a 9th overall pick. But he was, he fell to 15th. Again, extremely raw. People have been comparing him to Pascal Siakam. You're hoping that he could potentially turn into that. And then Luke Kennard, 40% three-point shooter who, has grown every year. And with consistent minutes, you're hoping that he can be a solid to quality starter for you. And then, your only fault now is that John Wall contract. And then you're hoping when John Wall gets healthy, you can potentially trade that contract too. Possibly for the Pistons, if you don't want to include, 2 first-round picks, you can include the 4 second-round picks that you got for the Cavs when you're in trading that 30th pick to Cleveland. So, yeah, all in all, I guess we could say it makes sense for both sides. And this is a trade that I'm most likely to do if I'm the Pistons, that the trade that I'm looking at the most at least. But yeah, so that's Bradley Beal. And the last player I want to discuss is a player that I'm still kind of iffy on if I was the Pistons or if I was a team trading him away from. I don't know if I doubt this trade happens. The other 2, you could kind of say it makes sense. I don't know if this trade makes sense, but trading for Gordon Hayward. I don't really want to go over his season last year. Gordon Hayward, he put up 11 points on 46% shooting, 33% shooting from 3, but last year he just wasn't the same. It was pretty obvious. I mean, coming back from that gruesome leg injury that you suffered in the first game of the previous season, I don't know. He was just obviously coming back, all the things coming on him. You know, you have Boston's fans on him, you know, telling him to compete, to come back, because, you know, he got 32 mil, a max contract from the Boston Celtics. You know, you have the inconsistency. Sometimes he starts, sometimes he comes off the bench. You have the problems, the chemistry problems that they had in that locker room with, I don't even want to say Kyrie Irving, because I don't know if Kyrie Irving was a chemistry problem, but, you know, Boston fans like to say Kyrie was the main problem. Terry Rozier was fighting for a contract. You have playing besides Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, the fit possibly wasn't there. Marcus Morris, you know, he was fighting for a contract too. You know, you got all these guys playing for themselves. Marcus Smart said it, and, you know, Gordon Hayward's in the midst of all of it. You know, fans bashing him, telling him that he doesn't look the same. This could be a chance for him to rejuvenate and resurrect his career. And yeah, a potential trade for me though wouldn't be much, honestly. I'd say Reggie Jackson and Tony Snell. Tony Snell's his deal is going to be up at the end of this year. No matter what, the Pistons are going to decline his team option. And then Reggie Jackson is a player who, you know, I see a year left. You can see a reoccurring theme here. Reggie Jackson is the main player in this. Personally, I don't think Reggie Jackson fits with the Detroit Pistons. That's all I'm going to say about that. But looking at it from both sides, for the Celtics, I mean, I don't know. Do you do this? It would kind of be disrespectful coming from Gordon Hayward, suffered this gruesome injury, giving up on him in a year. But I mean, it's a business. You know, you want to get rid of that contract while you can. And for the Detroit Pistons, you want to try to get, you know, Gordon Hayward while you can also. I mean, because if he comes out and he looks like himself the way he did 2 years ago, then, you know, his price is only going to go up. And then you're probably, if you want to trade for him, you're going to have to include a young player like a Luke Kennard or a Sekou Doumbouya. Or if you don't want to include them, add some picks. So now is the time. You know, now is the time, of course. But, I mean, like I said, for the Pistons, your hope is Gordon Hayward can come back and return to his former self. And even if he doesn't, at least you tried, man. And, I mean, Reggie Jackson and Tony Snell, that's not even much to give up. If that's nothing to you. That's nothing currently. The biggest problem for me is if Gordon Hayward, you know, you trade for him and he comes back and he, you know, looks like the same thing that he did last year, that horrendous on defense, just not the same, then you're going to have to be paying him this 30, 31, 32, 33, 34 million for a couple of seasons, and you're already capped out as it is. I don't know. So, but yeah, this is the trade that I look. But yeah, this is the three players that if I'm the Pistons, I would target. Please tell me if you guys enjoyed this video. Yeah, I might start this into like a little mini series, teams that are capped out or are just on the brink of contention. 3 players that they could trade for to put them above other players. But yeah, that's gonna do it for this video, guys. I hope you guys did enjoy. Please like and sub and share with your friends. But Chill Sports, and I'm out. Peace.